So, today we are going to discuss about human resource management. In this lecture, I will give you an introduction of what is human resource management, and after that we will discuss about the functions which is performed by human resource manager, and then we will see that what are the challenges which is faced by human resource managers in the changing economic environment. Okay. So, we will start with discussing about human resource management. To start with, I will give you an introduction of what is human resource management. Okay. Now, when we talk about human resource management, it is like any other function which is performed by the organization. Organizations are usually performing a number of functions, okay, like marketing, production, research and development. Similarly, human resource management is also a function which is performed by the organization. Now, if you look at human resource management as a function of the organization, we can say that this function also helps organization to achieve its objectives. What I mean to say is that the basic objective of management of human resources is to ensure that there is effective utilization of human resources in the organization. Why you go for effective utilization of human resources? So that you can achieve optimum performance from the individual, resulting in better organizational performance. Now, if you look at the definition that is given by somebody regarding human resource management, it says that it is a branch of organizational science that deals with the employment relationship along with all the decisions, actions and issues involved in that relationship. What does it mean? Basically, the job of a human resource management is to ensure a good relationship at the workplace, what we call employment relationship. What is this employment relationship? All functions that is covered under the heading of human resource management usually comes under this human employment relationship. Okay. So, any decision that is related to employees, any actions that is taken on employees or any issue related with the people comes under the purview of human resource management. Okay. Now, one thing that you have to say is that the objectives of this particular department or human resource management department is to ensure that organization is able to achieve its objective, isn't it? Say for example, organization has an objective that this particular year they want to achieve a market share of say 10% or a profit by this percentage. Okay. Now, all other departments in consultation or in collaboration with human resource management department will work to ensure that this objective is achieved. So, other departments like production, marketing will perform their functions. Similarly, human resource management department will also ensure that there is an adequate supply of manpower to perform the job. Their performance is evaluated, they are adequately compensated for the job. They also take certain measures for the welfare of the employees, okay, and they try to solve all issues related to employment relationship, whether it is labor management relationship or whether developing good relationship between the management and the employees, things like that. Okay. So, now if you see this, you can very well make it clear that what are the various functions which is performed by the HR manager. Okay. Now, Suppose I write objectives. Objectives of the organization. So, first thing that we are going to write is that what is the objectives of the organization. After that, what is the objectives of the human resource management department. So, the objectives of the human resource management department must be consistent and in congruence with the objectives of the organization. It means that the objectives of the human resource management department should be consistent in the sense that it should help organization to achieve its objectives. Okay. Now, another thing is that what are the functions which HR managers are going to perform. Now, if you look at the functions, they perform two kind of functions, that is they perform those functions which are performed by other managers as well, like production manager or marketing manager or R&D manager. Okay. The various managerial functions which are performed by them include planning, organizing, leading and controlling. Okay. These various functions are performed by all types of managers. So, they are general functions which is performed by all types of manager across the department, whether they belong to HR department, whether they belong to marketing department or whether they belong to human resource department. Okay. So, they are known as operative functions. Two kind of functions are performed by them. Okay. So, one is managerial functions and the other one is operative functions. When we talk about managerial functions, that is planning, organizing, leading and controlling. So, HR department also plan the activities for their department, they organize this, who is going to do what, okay. Then they are going to make somebody in charge of each of these activities, isn't it? And then they are also going to adopt certain control mechanism to ensure that the objectives of this department is met. Okay. So, you are deriving the objectives of this department from the objectives of the organization, isn't it? Got the point? Say organization requires 1000 people and there are only 900 people. So, there is a gap of 100 people. So, it is the responsibility of the HR department to recruit 100 people, so that all the activities of the organization is carried out. So, they are going to recruit and select at least 100 more people, which is required by the organization, isn't it? So, what I mean to say is, so they have to plan this activity. They have to make somebody in charge from the HR department that okay, you are going to look into the recruitment and selection of the candidates, isn't it? So that the objectives of this particular department is met. Apart from these managerial functions, I am talking about the operative functions. What are these operative functions which are performed by the managers? The functions which are specifically associated or related with the HR department. Okay. Now, if you look at those functions which are specifically related with HR department, they include they can be classified, you can say, into 4 different categories. Now, what could be these operative functions? Say for example, one function which is very important is employment related practices. Now, when coming to employment related practices, employment related practices. Now, when we are talking about employment related practices, there are certain functions which come under this employment related practices. What could be these employment related practices? Yes, manpower planning, recruitment and selection, isn't it? So, manpower planning and recruitment and selection, induction, placement, these practices will come under employment related practices. Okay. So, one of the functions which is performed by the HR manager is related to employment. That is, they are supposed to ensure that there are enough people to carry out all the activities in the organization, isn't it? You do not want to have either less or more people in the organization, isn't it? At any given point of time in any organization, if you find that if there are more people than required working in the organization, then it is going to be a burden on organization. You have to spend more revenue on that, isn't it, on their salary, establishment and maintenance. But at the same time, if you have less people, then less people that is required, then what will happen? Your activities would suffer. You will not be carry out all the required activities by the organization, isn't it? So, what I mean to say is that manpower planning is one of the important activity that is carried out by the human resource management. Okay. So, they use various methods to identify that what is the current manpower requirement, how many more people would be required by the organization, and accordingly they make their plan related to recruitment and selection. Say for example, if they find that there are more people working in the organization that is required, what kind of practices would be adopted by them? You go for voluntary retirement, layoff, retrenchment, so that you can reduce the number of people working in the organization, okay, and bring it to the optimum level. In case if you have less number of people that is required, then you go for recruitment and selection, isn't it? So, this activity which is very important is known as HR planning, human resource planning. Okay. The second important activity is, which is really very important and which is derived from manpower planning itself, is known as recruitment, selection, induction, placement. Okay. So, these are the activities which is performed by them. Who is going to perform these responsibilities in the organization? It is the responsibility of the HR department to carry out the recruitment and selection activities. Not only recruitment and selection, but they are also responsible for induction and placement, final placement of the people in the organization. Okay. So, once they come to know that yes, these many people are required in the organization, then they initiate the recruitment activity, going for the advertisement for the jobs, okay, screening out the candidates, okay, then going for tests, interviews, medical examination, and finally selecting some people, putting them on probation or induction, orientation also, and then placing them finally into a particular job, isn't it? So, this responsibility is carried out by the HR department in the organization, and this recruitment and selection is based on basically manpower planning, isn't it? So, unless you do your manpower planning, you cannot initiate recruitment and selection activities, because you will not be in a position to know whether you require people or whether you should go for VRS and other things, isn't it? So, manpower planning is a very important activity. We will discuss about that in detail in due course. And apart from this, employment related practices, another employment related practice which is very important is known as performance appraisal. Okay. Performance appraisal. Do you know about performance appraisal? Yes. Yes, not bonus, but you are going to evaluate the performance of the employees. Once you have selected a person, then he starts working in the organization. Even confirmation is based on the evaluation of the performance, isn't it? If your performance is found satisfactory, only then you carry out your activities further, isn't it? So, performance evaluation is a major activity area which is done by HR managers. What they do? They basically evaluate the performance of the people in the organization. Okay. And you know that based on these performance appraisal reports, you are going to take a number of decisions in the organization, isn't it? Sometimes your promotion, isn't it, is based on your performance. If your performance is found satisfactory, you are promoted. If it is not, then you may be given a warning. You may also be demoted, and if you do not improve your performance on consistently, then you may be thrown out of the organization as well, because you are not required. If you do not perform well, you cannot stay in the organization, isn't it? So, that is one aspect of performance appraisal, where you take certain administrative decisions based on performance evaluation. You use certain methods or techniques to evaluate the performance, that we will discuss at a later stage. But here what I want to tell you is that you are going to take certain administrative decisions based on this performance appraisal report. Okay. What else can be done? The same report is also used not only to take administrative decisions, but also for the development of the employees. So, you adopt a different approach. Okay. What I mean to say is that it is not that you are going to take certain administrative decisions based on performance appraisal report like promotion, reward, demotion and things like that. These are administrative decisions, but apart from these administrative decisions, you are going to take certain decisions for the development and growth of the employees. How? This performance appraisal report also tells you the strength and the weaknesses of the employees. You can find out what are those areas where the person has done very well, what are those areas where the person has not done so well, isn't it? So, if you adopt a developmental approach for the development of the people or human resources, then the same appraisal report can be used to identify the strength and weaknesses of the people, and then you can recommend certain training programs so that people can overcome their weaknesses and further strengthen their strong points, isn't it? It is possible. So, what I mean to say is that performance appraisal has two aspects. One is that you take certain administrative decisions, and in all organizations that is the practice that they use this performance appraisal report for promotions, transfers, rewards and things like that. Similarly, this is also used for the development of the people by identifying their strength and weaknesses, isn't it? So, performance appraisal is a part of, you can say, not only this one, but also used as a practice for the development of human resources. So, apart from employment related practices, this one. Another important activity area is human resource development, HRD. Okay. So, performance appraisal report is a part of, you can say, employment related practices. Similarly, it is also a part of what I call human resource development, because this is used for taking certain administrative decisions as well as also for the development of human resources by identifying the strengths and weaknesses and then recommending certain training programs for their growth and development. Okay. Apart from this performance appraisal, there are certain other activities that is also carried out by HR managers for the development of human resources, that is training and development activities. So, training is one of the major area. Training, management development, then another important aspect is career development. Okay. HR managers are also concerned with the development of human resources. What I mean to say is that it is the responsibility of the HR manager to ensure that people are going to effectively utilize their capacity, isn't it? At the same time, you are also responsible as HR manager to ensure their growth and development in the organization. So, training is one of the important area. Training and management development you will find is carried out by all kind of organizations. Okay. Training basically is given to those who are not performing well, isn't it? So that they can perform better next time. So, once you evaluate the performance of the people, you can find out who are the people who have not been able to perform well. So, you can recommend certain training programs. Apart from that, suppose you are going for a change. Okay. Suppose you brought a new machine on which the person has to work. So, the person has to be trained to work on this new machine. So, you send him to a training program, otherwise he will not be able to work in the organization. So, different kind of training programs are organized by the HR managers. Of course, it is sponsored by the management or the organization for the development of the people. So, these programs may be classified either technical programs where you are going to learn certain technical skills. Similarly, there are a number of programs which are organized by the HR department in the area of human relations skills. Technically, you may be very good, very strong, but you do not get along with the people in the organization. You do not have good relationship with the people. As a leader, okay, subordinates do not listen to you because you do not have a good relationship. Then what will happen? It will affect your performance, isn't it? So, sometimes the organization in consultation with the HR department organizes such programs or send them or these leaders to attend programs where they can develop their leadership ability, they can develop their capability on relationship building, isn't it, that how to develop good relationship at the workplace, isn't it, how to motivate their subordinates to get the job done. So, these are the soft skills, isn't it, behavioral skills, which is equally important compared to technical skills. I am not saying that technical skills are not required, because if you do not have technical skills, you will not be able to perform the job well. Okay. But only technical skills are not sufficient. Okay. But it is a necessary thing. What else you require is relationship skills, behavioral skills, how to deal with people, how to motivate your subordinates, how to get things done from them, isn't it? These are equally important. So, training may be either in technical skills area or behavioral skills area. Similarly, training may be given within the organization where an expert is going to teach you how to perform the job, or you may be sent to a institution or a place where you can get this kind of training. You know that many management institutions and academic institutions offers training program for the people from the industry, isn't it? These include technical skills as well as behavioral skills both. Okay. So, training and management development takes place in that way. Another important activity which is very much of concern to the organization is the career development of the people, isn't it? You will find that most organizations have a well laid out career paths, isn't it? You know that if you work for these many years or your performance is good, then you will be promoted to the next higher cadre. So, they have a career path, and depending upon your performance as well as your seniority, you grow in the hierarchy. Okay. But if your expectations are not met by the organization, then what will happen? Expectations in the term of organizational, your own career growth, isn't it? If you find that your career growth is not good, it is as stagnated at a particular point, then what will happen? You will be dissatisfied, you would like to switch over to other jobs where you find that better career prospects are there, isn't it? So, individuals also plan their career, isn't it? You must have thought of your career, that what you want to become, say after 10 years or 20 years, and if you find that organization is not going to facilitate your career growth and development, then you may be dissatisfied, you may quit the organization, you may join some other organization where you find that there are better career prospects. Okay. So, what I mean to say is that organizations, or more specifically say human resource managers, are supposed to integrate the activity of individual career planning and organizational career planning. Okay. It is clear to you? So, that is another important area where HR department is working, or HR managers are working. Now, apart from this career development, or what you call HRD activities, training, career development, organizational development and employment related practices, another major area where HR department is deeply involved is compensation management. Compensation management. Okay. Compensation management means what? That you are going to adequately compensate the people who are working, isn't it? So, you evaluate their performance and then you are going to pay for the work which they are doing in the organization. Now, when you say that you are going to pay for the work which they are doing in the organization, the whole gamut of compensation management practices comes into the picture, and it is the responsibility of the HR manager to ensure such a compensation practice or system in place, so that people are satisfied. Okay. You know that in India, a number of studies has been done, and it has been found that the single most important factor because of which people feel dissatisfied in the organization is their salary. Okay. Most of the demand by the unions, even managers also, is because they find that the salary is not adequate enough to meet the expenses, isn't it? So, most of the strikes, lockouts takes place because of wages only, wage, bonus and other issues, which comes under the purview of compensation management. Okay. So, what is the role of the HR managers? To devise such a compensation structure for the organization, so that people feel satisfied. So, you have to rationalize your compensation structure, so that people know that why you are being paid this much, why this person is being paid that much. In any organization you will find there is a grading of the pay scales, is not it? So, how this grading is done? Yes, how this grading is done? See, there are a number of factors which determine the grade of the salary structure in the organization. Okay. Some of the activities are carried out by the organization, some of the activities are basically external, which influence the compensation structure. Like if you look any particular industry, say cement industry, if you are working in cement industry in a particular organization, so you are going to pay your manager at par with what others are paying in the cement industry, isn't it? Got my point? So, that is an external factor which is going to influence your salary structure. If you pay less, probably you will not get good people to work in your organization. Similarly, organizations also go for some exercise which they do internally, okay, and this is known as job evaluation. Job evaluation. What do you mean by job evaluation? That you are going to evaluate the worth of a job in relation to other jobs. Okay. Basically, the basic you can say the basic theme of going for job evaluation is to translate job into monetary terms. So, if this is the job, you evaluate it, and then using certain tools and techniques, you tell that this would be the price for the job. So, if you are doing this job, that would be the compensation. Okay. And this job evaluation exercise is done internally by the organization. Okay. And then there are certain other factors, rules and regulations are there by the government, like government has come out with a number of acts, you know that, which is going to decide that how much you have to pay. Like they have come out with some certain acts, say minimum wages act. Minimum wages act says that you cannot pay less than this particular amount. Okay. So, the lowest wage that can be paid to any person is already decided by the government. Okay. Some time back it was 67 rupees, 66 and a half, something like that. I do not know whether it has gone up or not. So, what I mean to say is that you cannot pay less than that to even a very unskilled worker, okay, because this minimum wages is required by that person to keep his body and soul together. That is the minimum which is required, is not it? And there is no limit that how much you can pay. There is nothing like that. There is no bar on how much you can pay. You can pay as much as you want, depending upon the capacity of the organization. If you are working in a good multinational organization, you are better paid. For the same job, if you are working in a not so good organization, your pay is going to be less, isn't it? So, the capacity of the organization to pay is also going to be a determining factor. Okay. Like what other industries are paying, that becomes a determining factor. Similarly, rules and regulations are also going to affect that you cannot pay less than this. Similarly, you have Payment of Wages Act, which says that wages must be paid in cash, not in kind, okay, to avoid certain malpractices. Then you have Payment of Bonus Act, which says that you have to pay bonus to all the employees up to a certain level. Okay. So, these are the factors which are going to decide about your compensation management. That is basically your wage and salary. Okay. Apart from your wage and salary, you also get certain other benefits which are known as fringe benefits. What are these fringe benefits? Whatever you get, whatever benefit you get other than your salary. Okay. Like, can you give me some examples of fringe benefits? Like LTC, yes, medical facilities, reimbursed to children's education, insurance, travel allowances, isn't it? Getting a telephone for your office in your residence, car allowances. So they are paid to you in addition to the salary, but it also costs to the employer, isn't it? The employer must be spending a lot of money, like you are getting subsidized meal in your canteen run by the organization. So who is going to subsidize that? The institution or the organization? But it must be paying some amount to that person who is running the canteen, so that he can provide you subsidized meal, isn't it? So these are indirect benefits. Wage and salary are direct benefits, okay, and fringe benefits are indirect benefits. Earlier you used to pay taxes on your direct benefits only, wage and salary. Now the government has come out with a proposal that you have to pay taxes on your fringe benefits, though these taxes would be paid by the employer. So the cost of fringe benefits are going up, okay, and employers are trying to find out ways that how it can be reduced, okay. So all these things, wage and salary administration, say fringe benefits, what kind of benefits would be provided, whom it is to be provided, okay, how they are going to grade the structure of salary and all these things, that is also the responsibility of the HR manager. So HR managers are going to see that yes, this compensation is managed properly, they have a rationalized compensation structure, so that people feel satisfied, okay. So this is a very important area. Apart from this compensation management, the most important thing which is also basically carried out by the HR manager is looking into the human relations aspects, okay. So this is the third major aspect, and this is going to be the fourth major aspect, human relations. What I mean to say by human relations is that you are going to ensure a cordial relationship at the workplace, okay. So you want to maintain a good relationship between the labor and the management, isn't it? So HR managers are also responsible to ensure a good relationship between the labor and the management, okay. Apart from that, you are also supposed to look into the welfare activities that is to be carried out by the organization for the employees, okay. So one issue that is very important in human relations is union management relationship. Another one is employee welfare, okay. When I am talking about employee welfare, what I mean to say is that there are certain you can say activities, especially for the welfare of the employees, which are statutory in nature. The organization is bound to provide them, okay. Some of the statutory benefits that is given to the employees include, say, provident fund, insurance, gratuity, yes, not medical, these three benefits, especially gratuity, provident fund and pension, okay. So the government has come out with certain schemes like employee pension scheme, gratuity and provident fund to provide social security to the employees as well as their families. It also includes insurance. In case of a death of the earning member of the family, at least the family of the deceased gets some amount in pension, certain insurance benefits are given to them, isn't it? So, in that way the government has tried to safeguard the interest of the working population, isn't it? Apart from that, certain welfare measures are taken by the organization also, which are voluntary, but they are not bound to implement it because of certain rules and regulations, like employee pension scheme, provident fund, gratuity. These are governed by rules and regulations which has been enacted by the government. Like we have a PF Act, we have a gratuity act, we have employee pension scheme, we have an insurance scheme, okay? And all organizations are bound to implement that in their organization. Okay. So, these are statutory benefits, but apart from these statutory benefits, there are certain other benefits which can be provided by the organization for the welfare of the employees. Okay. Another important issue which is related to human relations is looking into their safety and health. Okay. Safety and health is another important issues. Okay. What I mean to say is safety is important. So, you are going to take certain preventive measures so that employee feels safe at the workplace. Okay. You take certain preventive measures to see that accident does not occur. Okay. You provide them a safe working environment in the organization, isn't it? Similarly, you also take care of certain things which does not affect the health of the employee. I am talking about both physical health as well as mental health. Okay. Like a person who is working in front of a boiler, okay, he is exposed to heat. So, you have to take certain preventive measures in order to save him, isn't it? Similarly, you also ensure you provide such a working environment which is conducive, so that employee feels safe not only physically, but as well as mentally. Okay. So, safety and health is another important issues. Now, these are the four important classifications that we have discussed. Now, is employment related practices, development of the human resources, HRD related practices, then compensation management and human relations management. Broadly speaking, these are the four areas where HR managers are working. Okay. So, this would be the course, you can say, so far as HR is concerned, but part of that is discussed in some other courses, like you have a separate course for human resource development, and human relations is discussed in another course, that is industrial relations. So, basically what we are going to concentrate upon is employment related practices, compensation management, and partly on human relations activities. Okay. Now, if you look at the reasons for increased importance of HR, why HR has come up suddenly and people have realized the importance of the people in the organization. Okay. Earlier what actually happened, that HR was treated as a support function in the organization, isn't it? That you are going to provide services to the other departments, but now the role of the HR in the organization has changed. What we are going to discuss now is the various reasons because of which HR has gained more importance today. Okay. Now, if you look at this, some of these factors are external in nature, like increased international competition is there. Then you have steel and automotive industries crisis that is going on, like looking at Japan's employment practices that appear to foster employee commitment. Then increased domestic competition is there, government involvement, like they want that organizations adopt fair employment practices, then certain demographic changes are going on in the organization. Okay. Now, let us discuss these points, and because of these things HR has gained more importance today. Okay. So, when I am talking about why HR has gained more importance, it is because of the global competition that is going to be there. Okay. Because of the competition, what is actually happening? This global competition has resulted, okay, and has affected the HR function very much. Okay. The recent example that I can give you, that I just read in the newspaper, that many Indian airline pilots have left Indian Airlines and have joined private airlines, and because of which some of the flights could not take off and the passengers are stranded, and they even did not tell Indian Airlines that they are leaving the organization. Okay. So, there is a cutthroat competition for skilled employees, isn't it? Similarly, organizations want to attract and retain the best people in the organization. That is why you will find that retention of the employees has become major issues in knowledge industries. Okay. You will find that employee turnover rate is very high in some of the industries, especially knowledge intensive industries, whether it is software in the organizations or whether it is R&D institutions. Even in management institutions, you will be surprised to know that this turnover, employee turnover, is very high, leaving one place and joining another place because of better career prospects, better facilities, better infrastructure, isn't it? So, what I mean to say is that because of this competition, it has become very difficult for organizations to retain and motivate talented employees in their organization. Okay. Not only that, some examples like Japan. Japan, you know that there is a practice that they provide lifetime employment, okay, to their employees. You can work till you are in a position to work. You are physically and mentally fit to work, isn't it? But now, no, you know that this practice is being changed in Japan also. Now they no more offer lifetime employment. Okay. Earlier we have job security. Say for example, do you think that job security still exists? No. No jobs are secure today. Okay. But if you have the capability, you will be able to get a job. So, it is not employment security which is important, but it is employability of a person which is more important. So, employability will come from where? Your knowledge and skill base. If you have that, you will get a job irrespective of the organization. Okay. But if you think that you are in a particular job and your job is secure, forget about it. Take another issue. Okay. When we talk about commitment of employees for the job, is it there? Are you committed to your organization? Are you committed to your career? The commitment is more towards the career compared to the job or even the organization. You say that so long as you are there in that particular organization, your commitment is there with the job and the organization. The day you leave, everything goes off, isn't it? So, your commitment is to your career, not to the organization. So, organizational commitment has been replaced by career commitment. Employment security is replaced by employability of the people. These are the trends which are going to affect the functioning of the HR people. So, what we have discussed so far, traditionally HR people used to perform these functions. They are still performing it, like they are going for employment related practices, they are going for training, they are still managing the compensation packages, looking after the employee welfare activities. Okay. Now, the time has come for a change. Okay. You know that most of these HR activities are being outsourced today. Okay. Earlier, the canteen was run by the organization. Now you give it to a contractor to run the canteen. So you get rid of some people who are working in the organization, isn't it? Similarly, there are a number of changes which are taking place, like there is a domestic competition, okay, in the market. Government has also come up with certain issues which they want to be resolved amicably. Okay. They want to ensure that employers adopt fair employment practices. You just cannot throw an employee from your organization, because the government is there to protect the interest of the workers. Okay. But you at the same time you also know that many organizations are going for re-engineering, restructuring and reorganizing their setup, and in the process the first thing which they do is reducing the number of people in the organization. So who is going to be affected? People. The person who has been recruited by you, whom you recruit one day, the next day you call him and say, I don't need you, thank you, goodbye, isn't it? But don't you think that you also feel the strain of saying that I don't require your services from tomorrow? Recently, you know what happened in Honda factory in Gurgaon? 1700 people were asked not to come to work, and the next day there was a strike, and you know what happened after that. What I mean to say is that it is very important for HR managers to ensure that in the changing economic environment, how they can prove their viability for the organization. Okay. Many organizations are today saying that they don't require HR managers. Why we should have HR managers? Line managers will do the job of HR manager. So unless HR people prove their viability and they can show their worth and add value to the organization, they will have no place in the organization. Okay. So value addition is very important. Value addition in the sense that you have to show in concrete terms that how you can help organizations to improve their performance. Okay. So there is a change, or you can say reversal in their role today, so far as HR is concerned, HR profession is concerned. Okay. They have to manage a diverse workforce because of the demographic changes which are taking place. Look at this point, demographic changes. So if you look at these demographic changes, you know that you have a diverse workforce, especially a cosmopolitan workforce where people from different caste, color, sex, region, religion are working together. So this heterogeneous workforce must be managed effectively. You can manage a homogeneous workforce which is coming from one region of one section very easily, because you understand what is the requirement, what is their expectations. But this heterogeneous workforce has varied expectations, because each group, each say will require different thing. So their expectations are different. So it is very difficult to manage a diverse workforce. That's why you will find that if you are not able to manage this diverse workforce, you don't have a place to stay in the organization. So HR managers are also required to effectively manage a diverse workforce and see that the expectations of people who are coming from different regions, different religions, caste, culture, sex are fulfilled. Unless you fulfill their expectations, it will be very difficult for you to manage them effectively. Okay. So that's all for today. We'll continue our discussion tomorrow.